I've seen a lot of petite brides holding a lehenga which is double their own weight.
I wore a 20 kg lehenga. I was like, I will faint, but I will wear this.
Welcome to Wear FM India Season 2, India's first wedding podcast. We have with us Devangi Nishar Parekh, the woman behind Azza Fashions, one of India's top luxury fashion destination for brides and beyond. What does bridal fashion mean to you?
Bridal fashion is storytelling. With photography, that storytelling comes out even more.
How would you describe today's bride?
The modern Indian woman knows who she is and is not afraid to express that.
Brides these days, they want each look to look different.
I have also seen era of Gen Z brides which wears the exact same outfit to every single event.
Why don't you name a few of the designers who are very timeless and classic?
There's so many.
She has helped bring together some of the best designers in the country and made bridal shopping super easy and stylish, not just in India, but across the world. How Azza always stays on top.
When a designer is creating a collection, getting the pricing right is something that we strongly advise. If you price it too high, it doesn't sell. And if you price it too low, it's not perceived to be luxury enough.
Having Urfi to represent your brand, it was a very bold move.
Whether or not you like Urfi, you can't deny that she is authentic to herself.
Yeah.
Even with Araya by Azza, we want the brand to be worn by authentic women.
She's smart, creative, and always ahead of the curve, whether it's launching Azza's online store or starting something fresh like Araya by Azza.
Across online and offline, we have more than 1,000 labels.
Wow,
that
that's
we
a
work
number.
with.
What's the biggest change or the shift that you see when you're dealing with a Bombay bride and when you're dealing with a Delhi bride?
Delhi brides are extremely glamorous. Mumbai is more understated.
Would you like to tell us about what's trending in terms of colors?
White has become a lot more popular.
A bride doesn't want to wear a lehenga. What options would you suggest?
Sari is a great alternative. You could also opt for a sharara.
What is that one shopping mistake people usually do?
Getting the heel height wrong. A, it'll look frumpy. B, you'll be uncomfortable near the fire.
Let's welcome Devangi and get into a super fun chat about bridal fashion, business, and everything in between. Would you like to name a few of the designers who are really doing great in bridesmaid trousseau?
It's like asking, which child is your favorite?
What's that one piece you think that a bride should definitely own? What's that one thing which bride generally overlook? What do you think is the ideal time for a bride to pick her outfit? Hi Devangi.
Hi, Shanaya.
I'm so glad today is the day we are finally gonna talk about fashion. And this is one of my favorite topics.
Me too.
So how are you feeling?
Great. I'm looking forward to the conversation today. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for choosing Wear FM's couch to spill all the beans about fashion. So that's what we are hoping for. And but before we start, we always have this ritual when we ask that. Of course, we're going to talk a lot about your professional life, but we want to ask you
Okay.
a little bit about your personal side.
Okay.
Right?
Should I be scared?
I don't think so. You should be scared.
All right.
But we want to ask you, how did you land where you are right now?
At Azza or
Yes,
in
of
life?
course.
Okay.
Yes.
So I actually grew up in the US. We moved there when I was 9 years old, and then my parents moved back after 3 years. So I lived there for 16 years. I went to boarding school and college, and I did my MBA there at Wharton, and between I worked in New York City. And living there, I really missed feeling close to home.
Okay.
And it wasn't just me, the entire Indian community there really values being rooted in culture and it gives them that sense of identity.
Sure.
Knowing, their Indian roots and celebrating the Indian culture. And I always wanted to bring India on a global platform. And luckily, my mom started Azza when I was in high school. And just seeing the beautiful craftsmanship coming out of India, the tremendous talent, the huge value that Indian designers offer and Indian craftsmanship is at a very... it's very well priced compared to global what global designers are offering. And so I really wanted to create a global platform for that beautiful craftsmanship coming out of India, which is why I just pulled the plug after I finished my MBA and I moved back to India at the end of 2014.
Sure.
And I launched azafashions.com shortly after, like a year later. And thereafter, just building Aza and trying to take Indian craftsmanship to on a global platform.
Amazing. Why name Aza?
So Aza means desire. And the idea is that, what you desire out of yourself, like the image that you sort of see yourself at authentically within yourself, we want to help you achieve that.
Absolutely.
So whatever your desire is, we just want to work with you on that journey rather than defining that these are the trends and you have to follow them and this is your color and you have to wear it. It's not like that. It's what is truly authentic to you and what is really your deep-rooted desire. That is the journey we want to embark upon with you.
Amazing. I mean, what a wonderful thought to, even put in just to have your brand name, because it should speak about your identity, what you want to deliver, right? It feels amazing to know about that.
Thank you.
But since we are on Wed FM, and ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता है कि we will not talk about weddings.
Yes.
So before I start, talking about weddings, I really want to ask you, what does bridal fashion mean to you? So we've spoken a lot about bridal wear, but I think now we are in 2025 and we can safely say that we talk about bridal fashion more than just bridal wear. So why don't you tell us?
Yeah. So bridal fashion is storytelling, right? So it's the most important few days of your life, right?
Absolutely.
You have everybody who you love and who loves you together in one room.
Yeah.
And you are as much of a celebrity as any Bollywood star or any Hollywood star. And everybody is just focused on you, the couple that is. So this is your moment to shine, right? And I think that bridal fashion and even groom's fashion is now a journey of storytelling. So it's not just, like a tradition or like, mummy ne kaha ki lal pehno, so I'll wear red.
Yeah.
And none of that is true anymore.
Yeah.
Now it's like, how do I want to represent myself and my story and my journey? And that may be through different personality types in each function also.
Absolutely.
Right? Like in a Mehndi, I bring out my quirky fun side.
Yeah.
In a Sangeet, I bring out my glamorous diva side.
Yeah.
In the Sangeet, I bring out my traditional family girl side. I mean, these are just my sides, but you may have other sides, right?
Absolutely.
So whoever the bride is, she may want to bring out each side of her personality through through the fashion that she wears. And that's not only the clothes, but it's also the jewelry. It's the way that you do your hair and the makeup and just the way you carry yourself, right?
Absolutely.
So I think it's a whole journey of storytelling, which is really beautiful now.
Amazing. And I feel that it's very, very important that, whatever that you wear, you should bring your own ethos along with it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you just try to, for example, at least we are living in that world when we see any influencer or any celebrity wearing something, we intend to, copy those styles. But I feel that if you bring your own style to it, it's just a different feeling altogether.
No, definitely. I mean, you could have the most glamorous red carpet, expensive, fancy outfit, but ultimately, if it's not you, if you're not feeling comfortable in it, it's not going to work, It's not going to be worth that money only.
Yeah.
Even, in fact, if you buy something less expensive, which just represents you, it doesn't need to be OTT. Say if you're a minimal person and you just want to wear a plain white sari, even if it's just for your wedding, right? If that is you, then that will be wow. Because you'll be smiling, you'll be radiant. Everybody will see that you're comfortable, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's really important, much more so than any trend and any like fanciness involved.
But how would you describe today's bride? Is she stylish, conscious, or, just buying it for the sake of it? How would you, describe today's bride?
I think she's all of the above because she's not one woman, right? There's so many different types of brides. But she's definitely very well researched. She's very knowledgeable. And I think now the modern Indian woman knows who she is and is not afraid to express that, which is really nice. Pehle kya hota tha, it's like you go with the family, then your mom-in-law will say like, just drown you in some death by fabric type of outfit.
Absolutely.
And you're just like, okay, mummy ji. Like that doesn't happen anymore. So we see that now, like brides come with a very long list of things that they have already researched. They have like a whole Pinterest board. They have, they have all these Instagram screenshots for sure. And then, of course, it's a conversation, like, what do you think will look good on me? Here are the changes that I would like. What are the color options?
Yeah.
But she's very knowledgeable.
Absolutely. And I feel that because I'm a wedding photographer myself,
Oh, okay.
and I feel that, जब मैं शादियां आज से 5 साल पहले करती थी, nobody used to talk about editorial photography. Just because brides are being, dressed up like that, they would really want editorial photography as well, right?
Yeah.
Imagine wearing a traditional lehenga and expecting editorial photography out of it. I mean, it won't really make sense, right? But suddenly, I'm so happy that designers and, people like you are being so conscious about today's era and creating, couture in a way so that they can actually wear it without even looking like models, but still traditional brides and still can have editorial side of themselves.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I mean, I don't agree with the rule that, you can't do editorial with traditional.
Sure.
I just feel like the juxtaposition, there's some interest there also, you know? And honestly, whatever the bride and groom want, it's their special day. Like I said, they're the celebrity. So if they want to go, like, they want to do a super editorial shoot, then, like, it can be done, if they can create that vibe kind of thing. I just feel like there are no rules anymore.
That's true. And I'm sure that today's, it's just not about brides. I think about the grooms as well. I think they're breaking a lot of rules. And, as photographer, it really makes me happy because we're just not, it's just not like कि हमने blueprint बना लिया है and we're just working on it. We're just going on a wedding and just get done with it. Now we feel more excited. Okay, this is the look. This is, the kind of light we will be using. We're going to do something of that sort. I think it's just too happy.
And in fact, with photography, that storytelling comes out even more.
Absolutely.
So step one of the journey is, selecting the outfit to tell your story. And then the way that the photos tell the story just takes it to another level.
Absolutely. Imagine as photographers, now we work on mood boards, storyboards. I mean, who thought, when you're hiring a photographer, he or she will be, working on your mood boards.
Yeah.
Right. So it's very, very exciting, definitely. But talking about Pinterest, talking about Instagram, you think that the shopping style has also changed because of all these platforms?
I definitely think that it has, in a very positive way, increased awareness about the vast number of designers and brands there are within India itself. And there is a huge depth of offerings, right? Like when Delhi designers, Hyderabad designers, Calcutta designers, Mumbai designers, Jaipur designers, and each of them have a very unique sort of design sensibility.
Yeah.
So now it's much easier for a bride or a groom or their families or their bridesmaids even to identify, what is their aesthetic, to think about it in advance, and then create a short list of designers that they would be interested in sort of exploring further. So that is one very great thing that, social media in general has done. One sort of not so positive thing that social media has done is because campaigns get released at X amount, say in X month, what happens then is there's a fatigue which comes in, right?
Yes.
Even though the collection has not hit the racks yet, or maybe it just has hit the racks, people have seen so much of those campaign images that they're like, ये तो पुराना हो गया है, ये नहीं चाहिए, कुछ नया दिखाओ. And we're like, nahi, but yehi to naya hai.
Exactly.
So I think there's a little bit of fatigue which happens because you just see imagery so often that you're just like, oh, swipe, swipe, swipe.
Exactly. And I think Vogue's editor, Rochelle, also mentioned this, that it's a good idea to put everything in the market. But now today's bride is very smart. She doesn't want anything which is done by someone, right? Even if it's model, right?
Yes.
So I think it's a very great point that you have, said. But because designers keep releasing their campaigns, what do you think is the ideal time for a bride to pick her outfit? I mean, for the bridal wear.
A lot of new designs come out around July, which is when Couture Week happens.
Sure.
And soon after that, I think July, August, September, this is when a lot of new styles get introduced. So this is a great time to look in the market.
Okay.
However, that being said, you can't really predict. Like sometimes you meet someone and then he proposes or your families agree or,
Yeah,
however it
of
is.
course.
So now there are actually styles being introduced year round.
Yeah.
We introduce new styles both online and offline pretty much every day. Just that, I think July, August is a great time to shop. But if you can't, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
A 1 month, 2 month, 3 month window within this is very doable.
Yeah. For example, I'm getting married in November and everything gets fixed in, let's say, in July. What do you think that how much time I should give for my bridal lehenga specifically, the main outfit? How much time do you think I should give? I mean, should I just wait for new designs to come in or should I look for customization? So if you can just give us a timeline.
Yeah, so intricate lehengas usually take between 12 and 14 weeks. And then keep a 1 or 2 week buffer just in case, or more if you can, just in case there are alterations. It depends on what kind of bride you are. So there are brides who don't look at what is new and that as well, because on their main day they have shortlisted something that they have really loved, which is classic. A lot of brides for the feiras especially, they want to go classic. And then it doesn't really matter what's introduced in July or Feb or whenever. You just have some image of yourself in mind, and it's a classic lehenga which is timeless and you can wear it through the years. More for the sangeet, the reception, the mehndi, this is where sort of trends and new styles sort of come in. And for those, typically the timeline is shorter unless it's very, very heavily embellished. So it depends, like minimal brides can shorten the timelines, but OTT brides, like I was a very OTT bride. I would say keep 4 months on hand if you can.
Oh, amazing. Like 4 months, I think it's a good
It's doable.
period. Yeah. Literally unlike me, because when I got married, so I got married on Band Baja Bride.
Oh, that's amazing. We did Band Baja Bride as part of Azar.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my mom was on the show.
Oh, how amazing is that? And you won't believe, because I was just waiting for Sabya's team to get back to me. So because I'm a believer. And the day I have given my story to them, I was very, very sure that they will definitely get back to me.
Yeah.
So waited and everybody, around me was thinking that I'm mad. I mean,
But you manifested it.
Yeah.
I believe in manifestation.
same thing that I did. So imagine sabne kapde le liye.
Yeah.
Only the bride was left.
Wow.
And my husband, he was just looking at me. He was like, you need to tell me what you're wearing so that I can also buy and plan things for myself. But 15 days prior to my wedding, I got a call.
Wow.
Literally 15 days prior, I got a call and they said that, hey, you guys are coming for the fittings and everything. And then, of course, Sabya did a prank on me and he just showed me some of the not so good looking lehenga. He said, this is the lehenga that you need to wear. I said, no, I'm not wearing this. I know it happened 10 years back, but I really need to wear something which is me. He said, I'm doing a prank on you, but imagine that I still got, my own lehenga, I mean, few days back, but for Nitin, my husband, he literally got his sherwani on the day of the wedding.
Wow.
Yeah, and imagine how calm he was. He was just okay with it. He totally believed.
He's a keeper.
He's definitely a keeper. So, some brides are definitely like me who really don't really care about planning things well in advance. But now if I talk about, planning things well in advance for brides, I think it's a very good, way of planning things well so that you don't panic on your own big day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
But it depends on each bride's personality type and also what timeline they have. So we do have NRI brides who fly in and they just have a day to shop. So they come in, they pick something and they give their sort of alterations and then they leave and they pick up the outfit or we send it to them. So that also happens for sure.
Amazing.
And it just depends on how chill you are as a bride.
I know. See?
Yeah.
But tell me something. We're living in the era where we love having bridal stylists as well.
Yes.
Right. So do you guys have someone in-house or do you like referring to bridal stylist? And how do you like the idea about having a bridal stylist?
Yes, so we also work with bridal stylists who bring their clients to our store, and we are happy to assist the stylists in terms of what they are envisioning for the bride and groom
All right.
and the families wherever applicable. At the same time, that's not necessarily required at all. We have trained our store teams and fashion consultants within the stores to be the stylist for the bride, the groom, the family, and anyone else involved. We also have speak to the stylist online as a feature. So because we have a huge revenue coming from outside India, and not everybody flies in, right?
All right.
So they speak to a stylist online. We do video conferencing. We work with them in terms of creating the look that they had in mind as well.
Oh, okay.
So it works both ways.
All right.
And again, it's a personal comfort sort of thing, right? Like, I think usually the people who opt for a stylist on their own are the ones who want really specific, larger than life sort of looks. And we're happy to work with them as well.
So if I ask you, what are the pros and cons of having a bridal stylist?
The pros are that if the bridal stylist understands you and your personal sense of style well, then they will be able to really curate a unique but yet highly customized bridal trousseau just for you, which you can specify, I want it to be exactly this way, and no, it should never have been seen before, mix and match it, stylist. A lot of the stress that comes with how do I put jewelry with this look, and what hair and makeup to do, and what heels do I wear, and how do I deal with this dupatta situation, or whatever, there's a zillion questions that come with it. They will plan everything for you from start to finish, and so a lot of the stress goes away, and you can focus on planning the wedding and other things like life, work, etc.
Absolutely.
The con is, of course, if the bridal stylist doesn't resonate with you or doesn't understand you, you don't want somebody who's going to tell you what to wear on the most special day of your life. And a lot of you also you want somebody to take you seriously. It should not be that you are one of 100 portfolio of clients, and it's just like a assistant dealing with you, and you don't want to feel like that. You want to feel like you are the most important person. And so it's really important, if you opt for that route, to pick somebody who really gels with you. And I feel like that about everybody you work with for the wedding. If the person gels with you, it doesn't matter how famous or non-famous they are. The most important thing is resonance.
Very nicely put together, because it's very, very important that someone should make you feel special.
Yes.
Right? For your special day.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me something, because brides these days, they want each look to look different, right? How is it changing the idea of shopping for a trousseau as well?
I have seen a lot of brides who want to look different in every event, but I have also seen this era of Gen Z brides which wears the exact same outfit to every single event. And it's basically like a sequined lehenga in silver, in red, in white, in black, or black maybe for the Sangeet if it's allowed, but in multiple colors like pastel tones as well. So there are both types of brides. What to keep in mind when shopping for a trousseau apart from the main looks, you mean? I would say pick pieces that you would genuinely wear again and again, right? So earlier there used to be rules around you have to buy 11 saris or X number of things and all.
The traditional way of going.
So those actually, you may or may not be comfortable in those specific type of saris, or you may or may not need those many kurtas.
Absolutely.
So rather than abiding by that sort of rule book, I would say pick pieces which you will genuinely rewear. It could be separates, it could be, just versatile sets, neutral colors. So that's the most important thing to keep in mind. Even if it's fewer pieces, pick things which really you will wear through the years.
Absolutely. And I love what you're wearing today. I mean, when I looked at this cape, I literally, thought in mind that I can actually wear it with my nice pants, with skirt. I think, redesign it however I want to.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to pick outfits which...
This is from Azza.
Absolutely, it's from Azza. And thank you for styling me as well.
This is also from Azza.
Azza, right? And I love, how you said that it's very important that pick outfits which you can rewear, right? But what do you think? I mean, of course, for me, when I talk about my own comfort and if I talk about style, I always will choose comfort over anything. But do you think when people come for shopping at Azza, do they really, look for comfort first and then for just having the outfit for their grandeur weddings, or they just don't look for comfort anymore?
Again, it depends so much on the bride. Comfort is definitely an important factor, but not necessarily for the main outfit. A lot of people keep a second outfit to change into, say, after a few hours. So, for example, in the Sangeet, they would dance and, enter in one outfit, and then maybe a few hours later, they would change into a really nice kaftan or even a short dress, which is really cool with sneakers.
Yeah.
So comfort is coming into play in different ways.
Yeah.
People are also wearing sneakers underneath their lehenga, which is, and they look gorgeous
Absolutely.
actually and very stylish. But at the same time, they're not compromising on the glam factor or what they had in mind for the main outfit.
I've seen a lot of, petite brides, holding a lehenga which is like double their own weight, right?
I wore a 20 kg lehenga for my Sangeet.
Wow.
I was like, I will faint, but I will wear this.
So let me ask you this question then. Don't you think that it brings a lot of discomfort, right? When you are not really...
No, I loved it. I was like, there is not one picture of me from my wedding not smiling.
Wow.
I just, it depends so much on the bride, right? Like for me, I wanted to be like very extra, and I was happy being extra. I was not uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I was happy staying in that outfit for 7-8 hours. Me and my husband and I were the last people to leave every single function.
Amazing.
Like I didn't leave early, so I was okay to wear it, right? Like I was like, I will be fine in this 20 kg lehenga. But if that is not you, then obviously that is you should not opt for that, like, because
Definitely.
you'll be uncomfortable and crying kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So
but I think that designers are also being very, very conscious about these things. Like, for example, when I used to see my brides holding such heavy lehengas, there used to be nothing, being mindfully designed on their belt area where you specifically feel the weight on.
Yes.
Right? With I think I've recently seen in one of Sabyasachi's lehenga, they put a tiny cotton belt so that this area feels
comfortable,
and they should not feel that something is pinching them here. So all those things are, I think, amazing.
No, definitely. There's also bodysuits to hold the weight of the blouse if the blouse is very heavy. There is a lot of innovation in terms of the cuts, the silhouettes, and also the level of comfort and the lining. All of this, I think designers are being extremely mindful of. They're also creating a lot of designers are now working on looks that are perceived to be heavy, but they are not weight-wise heavy.
Yeah,
So they create the larger-than-life feel, but at the same time, they're not weight-wise heavy.
Absolutely. But would you like to give some of the tips for the brides to be, like you yourself have chosen such heavy lehenga to wear, right? So anything like you just mentioned about the bodysuit, is there anything else that you would like to advise them that they can keep those things handy when they're choosing something really heavy, to wear?
Definitely try on the entire look beforehand. And before ordering it, if you know what is the weight of that garment, I would say try something on which is that heavy, because it is a weightlifting task, and try dancing in it. So practice doing your Sangeet dance, for example, in your actual lehenga or in some garment which is an equal weight. This is really important, because then you know that you are comfortable doing it. And if you're not comfortable doing it, please don't do it, because this is such an important occasion. You'd rather wear something that makes you comfortable and feel happy, and you want to be bubbly at your own event and enjoy it.
Absolutely. I think the biggest takeaway is that you should dance
the night away.
You should dance the night away, but for sure practice the outfit like you're going for a rehearsal.
So practice head to toe. I mean, hair and makeup may not be possible, but with the jewelry as well, because sometimes a very heavy outfit and heavy set, it just becomes, it looks like you're drowning. So if you're going really OTT with an outfit, like I went very minimal with jewelry. And similarly, if you're going very maximal with jewelry, then I would say keep your outfit maybe a little toned down, or maybe a wider neck, or you'll have to make adjustments so that it's not everywhere lots is happening.
Yeah.
It's you're making a statement in one aspect rather than in every
Absolutely.
aspect.
Absolutely. So these days on Instagram, a lot of color, people are, talking a lot about color theory, right? So, I mean, there's this place where you put different colors on
Yes.
your neck area and then they check like
Yes.
what color really suits you. Do you think, are we doing something similar for the brides when they are coming to, choose the outfits for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, India, we've been doing this for years and years, right?
Yeah,
like
because,
every time, like it's
yeah.
like putting a sari against your skin and seeing, does this color look good
Yeah.
on me?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I think we've been doing this literally for years. But in terms of, again, with color, I don't think there's any rule that because your skin color is this, you cannot
Yeah.
wear this and you can't wear
Yeah.
I don't agree with that concept. Again, if you are radiating in a color, like for me, I'm obsessed with white. So I love wearing white. Now, if
Yeah.
it's a night party, also I want to wear white. Now, if somebody tells me, like you don't wear white at night or something like that, I don't agree with that. I'm like, but I look happy. That's important.
That's absolutely amazing to know. And this is exactly what I was expecting from you, because it's very, very important that, if we carry something from the Western, right? Like I was talking about, the color theory is being very, very popularized on Instagram these days. But we've been doing this for so many years.
Yeah.
We just go to any store and then we'll just put it, oh no, this is not looking nice on me.
Yeah,
and this is looking
exactly,
nice on me,
exactly.
yeah. And
And
that-
each color has such a vast depth of tones,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
green is not one color. Like you
Yeah.
have tons of types of greens. You have emerald green, sage green, like all sorts of, color options within that.
Absolutely. This is a little personal, but I really want to ask you, because you have seen a lot of brides coming into the store and the way they choose their outfits and everything. Do you think that whom you are coming to shop the outfit also matters?
Of course it matters because, whether I'm coming with my best friend or my husband to be or my in-laws to be or my mom,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask, how am I looking, right? So obviously I'm going to value their opinion because they're important
Sure.
to me. So it definitely matters. But at the same time, I think, a lot of women that we're seeing now have a sense of self-conviction, which is amazing. I love it. And even if the other person says, that, hey, like, I don't love it,
Yeah.
they're like, okay, but I love it. And
Yeah.
I've seen this also, which is cool. I like it.
Okay. And because I personally have seen a lot of times, do you think that when you come along with your in-laws or when you come along with someone who doesn't really matches with your own style, it creates some sort of discomfort because you like something, but because of the respect, you can't say that what you are saying, I'm not liking it. So it just changes a lot of perception when you're buying your own outfit. Do you think so?
See, that depends on the relationship. I mean, my in-laws are very cool. I would definitely love shopping with
Yeah.
them. But I think, when choosing such an important outfit, it's nice to go with somebody who resonates with your personal sense of style.
Absolutely.
That being said, now, tradition is tradition. And if that's the tradition that you have to go with somebody who may not understand, then it can be tricky. But for me, the biggest lesson I've learned in life in general is, it's really important to voice how you're feeling and
Absolutely.
speak your truth. And it doesn't have to be in a very harsh way. It doesn't have to be fighting. It can just be that, I really want to share with you why I feel this way, and
Yeah.
just speak your truth. And then, like, I believe that the universe will like take you on the right path.
Absolutely.
If you speak your truth. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I feel about it. But if you have the option,
Yeah.
of course, go with somebody who understands you.
Of course.
Yeah.
Talking about colors, what's trending? Ivories, reds. These days, people are actually loving to wear whites as well.
Yes.
Right. So, do you? Would you like to tell us about what's trending in terms of colors?
Red, of course, is a timeless color.
Yeah.
A lot of brides still opt for red. It's classic.
Yeah.
That being said, pastels are very, very popular now
Yeah.
because it gives a very ethereal vibe. It gives a very princess feel, and
Yeah.
with the flowers and the entrance, it just looks really
Sure.
beautiful, especially for daytime or
Yeah.
early evening weddings. And yes, white has become a lot more popular. It's still not fully accepted in some families, in which case they opt for gold, which gives you that angelic vibe that white would otherwise give you without having to wear white.
That I think that's rightly said, because still, like in my family, no one would let me wear white for such a sacred ceremony. They would always want me to wear red, or to choose something which is very, very colorful. Yeah. And tell me something, if a bride doesn't want to wear a lehenga, for the main ceremony, what options would you suggest? Because you've seen many designs and many outfits on your waist. So why don't you tell us that what should be that one thing brides can actually find a substitute in?
There is no rule that a bride has to wear a lehenga. There are lots of alternatives out there. The sari is a great alternative. It looks absolutely stunning, and we've seen Bollywood brides, in fact, wearing saris as well.
Yeah.
If you see Alia Bhatt, for example.
Yeah.
And it looks absolutely gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
Apart from that, you could also opt for a sharara. So for Gurudwara weddings, we often style brides in beautiful shararas. For example, Rimple and Harpreet Narula make stunning shararas. So that's another alternative. I have also seen brides wearing very different silhouettes. So for example, Gaurav Gupta did a stunning bride in a pastel blue pantsuit.
Okay.
And she walked down the aisle wearing that, and it looked amazing.
Yeah.
So there is absolutely no rule that you have to wear a lehenga, right?
Yeah.
It can be any silhouette. But if I had to choose an alternative, for me, it would be the sari. I feel like it's evergreen, and you can wear it again, and it just looks so beautiful. Our mums wore saris.
Absolutely. And I think, but I think brides still have this notion that if they choose to wear, sari, they will look underdressed. Because I had a recent conversation with one of the editor from the magazine, and we were having this conversation, and then she literally mentioned this, that, whenever we do some sort of interviews, brides always come up with this, that we will look very underdressed. So what are the ways to make it, it should just look like that you're the bride. Maybe adding a veil or something of that sort.
I think that brides in different parts of the country have different notions of what is underdressed and overdressed. So we see this, what you just mentioned, this mindset of looking underdressed in a sari coming more from the north of India.
Okay.
South India, wearing a sari is very common for a wedding. Even in Bengal, they often wear saris only, right?
Yeah.
So it depends on which part of India we're sort of catering to. Yes, in the north, I think there is this mindset of wanting to be, to look like the bride in a larger than life way.
Yeah.
And in that case, I think a sari can be styled up, definitely, as you mentioned, with a veil. Looks absolutely stunning. You can add a dupatta, you can add a veil, you can also style a sari in a lehenga-ish way, right? So it can look like a lehenga sari, for example. You can wear a skirt under and drape it in a different style.
Yeah.
So, I think a sari is extremely versatile.
Yeah.
And if not on the main day, I highly recommend exploring modern interpretations of the sari, even for other functions, right?
Absolutely.
So a sari gown, a pant sari. There's so many different interpretations now of a sari, which just look really, really nice. It also helps the bride create versatility in her portfolio of designs, right? Rather than wearing lehenga.
Exactly. And I think this notion actually, comes from, because these days, bride ki mom, groom ki mom, everybody wants to dress themselves up in a way that they look really, really nice and presentable.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes I get confused that who is the real bride, because these days people are maintaining themselves so well. First of all, they don't even look like mother and daughters. And then there is a little confusion who is dressed too much and who's not dressed too much, right? So when I ask you, how has changed that in terms of shopping as well? Because when you're putting things on the rack only for bridal wear, do you see people actually choosing not being the bride as well?
Yeah. So I like to address the first part of your question. I love to believe that when you're looking for the bride, you look for the happiest girl in the room.
Absolutely.
And that's the bride. And it doesn't matter if she's the most underdressed one. She's generally the most radiant because she's happy to be there with all her loved ones. And when you're looking for the groom, look for the guy with love in his eyes. This is my very idealistic, silly self. But in terms of who is choosing what, yes. So if it is a very large wedding, for example, you will see guests opting for what would have otherwise been worn by, could have been chosen by a bride who has a smaller wedding.
Yeah.
And so it really depends on the budget of the bridegroom and their family, as well as the scale of the wedding that we're looking at. I mean, yes, we definitely see that happening though.
Sure. And when you're talking about, family, now there is a different, thing altogether when we talk about bridesmaids.
Yes.
Right? Is it also influencing the collection?
Yes. So now there are a lot of designers who are specifically designing for the bridesmaids, for the friends, for the groomsmen.
Yeah.
This is a very big trend. And in fact, now also for the photography, we have, 10 people will be wearing the same bridesmaid and 10 men will be wearing the same groomsmen outfits, similar to the concept that we have in the West. And so there are a lot of designers who have come up who are literally focused specifically on this category, right?
Oh, okay.
The pricing is competitive. They use a lot of prints. It's trendy, ruffle saris, modern touch. It's tradition with a modern touch kind of vibe.
Would you like to name a few of the designers who are really doing great in bridesmaid trousseau or bridesmaid collection?
Yeah, sure. So there's a multitude of them, of course. Paulamy and Harsh, Kalista, Nupur Kanoi has very trendy, fusion styles. We also have a label at Aza called Ariana Couture, which is specifically just for the bridesmaid.
Oh, that's amazing. And I think I really have to visit Aza's store to
Please
literally see it more like a bridesmaid, because
You
my
can also
friend-
download the app, by the way, and we have image search. So
Okay.
if you go to a party, for example, and you see an outfit you really like, or if you see a celebrity wearing something, you can screenshot it and upload it on the search of our app, and it'll give you styles that exact style and also other styles that are similar.
Wow, that's amazing to know. I mean, I'm so glad that, AI and
Yes.
all those things are literally changing the way we shop.
Yes.
Right? It makes me feel really, really happy. I think it eases out your job a
For
lot.
sure, for sure. Yeah, so for example, even on the app, we have personalization. So if you spend some time on it, it'll show you products as per your design sensibility and your preferences.
I think I'm going to do that tonight. So
Yes, please.
Nitin is going to really empty his pocket tonight. But before that, I really want to ask you, what's that one thing which bride generally overlooks when it comes to their own styling?
Not every bride overlooks it, but there can be, I guess, two extremes which ideally one can sort of steer clear from. One is being too trend conscious and focused, which is that I want everything to be, exactly as per trend right now. And here, the thing is just to keep in mind that later, 10 years, 20 years later, when you look at your pictures, you shouldn't feel like, oh God, what was I wearing? You still want to
Exactly.
feel like you resonate with that. And that was who you were at the time.
Absolutely.
And the other extreme is, this is the personality phase I'm currently in. Like, for example, I mentioned the sequin lehenga.
Yeah.
And to replicate that in every single function. If that will make you happy, then sure, by all means. But just keep in mind that, again, when you look back at these pictures, you shouldn't feel like, why did I wear the same thing in every function?
Absolutely.
So just keep yourself 10 years later in mind when you're looking back at your album. Will you still be happy with this?
But for that, what is that one shopping mistake that people usually do?
One mistake that brides can avoid while shopping for their bridal outfits is getting the heel height wrong. So a lot of times they'll place an order and then they'll wear totally different sized heels. So the outfit ends up looking too short or too long. And when you most brides have to take off their shoes at the mandap. So you should keep that in mind as well, right? So like, I'm a girl who wears 6-inch heels many times, but don't give that specification for your fedas, because you will be barefoot and then that will be dragging on the floor. A, it'll look frumpy. B, you will be uncomfortable near the fire. Or,
Exactly.
it's precarious. So be very mindful of what is the heel height that you will actually wear, what is practical on that day. And say you want to dance 7 hours, if you're planning sneakers, then bring those sneakers in and get them measured. So
Absolutely.
it's absolutely precise in terms of neither being too short nor too long.
No, that's really amazing. I think very rare I've seen someone putting that much of effort or putting this into their thought process, that what will happen when during Fedas I will be barefoot and I will be, revolving around the fire. I think
Yes.
it's very, very important. I've seen brides struggling with such heavy lehengas just because it's dragging on the floor.
Right.
I think it's a very beautiful thing that you have mentioned. We were talking about North brides, and you have definitely dealt with many cultures, right? When it comes to giving them a good shopping experience. I want to ask you, what's the biggest change or the shift that you see when you're dealing with a Bombay bride and when you're dealing with a Delhi bride?
Delhi brides are extremely glamorous, generally more maximal. They love a dramatic silhouette and a dramatic
Sure.
lehenga. They are experimental, and I think it's definitely more larger than life. When it comes to Mumbai, I think Mumbai is more understated. They care more about embroidery and finish and cut and
Yeah.
silhouette. It doesn't need to be like the largest thing in the world,
Yeah.
but it will be trendy. So this is one of the key differences between the two.
Where do you usually get more tight calls on that, this is not fitting well and this is not something that I've ordered for, all these things? Where you usually get the calls from Delhi or from Bombay?
So we pride ourselves on customer care, and taking the right measurements is very critical.
Amazing.
So I would hope that we don't get such calls from any region, of course.
Sure.
And if it comes up, we would take it very seriously because we don't want to disappoint a bride or a groom or their family on such an important occasion, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is not the time to be making angry calls. This is the time to be happy and celebrating.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry that doesn't answer your question, but I would hope nobody calls.
I really hope no
Yeah.
one does that. But, a lot of time I've heard this from our brides that मैंने लहंगा ऑर्डर किया था but वो टाइम पर नहीं आया है. And it's not about Azza at all. I'm in general, I'm
Yes.
talking about Azza being on top. And I'm sure just because you guys have best designs, I think it's very important that you guys definitely be doing great work at customer service as well. So during the season time, how do you maintain that consistency of giving best customer service and working on the right timelines and everything? So just want to know that when you're dealing with
Yeah.
brides during the craziest season. Yeah.
No, definitely that is a very critical part of it, because if the outfit didn't come, then the whole purpose was sort of wasted.
Absolutely.
And people don't keep backup outfits for their, for such
Exactly.
important things. So we have an order follow-up team from the time that an order is
Yeah.
placed to the time that it is delivered to the customer. We do regular checks with the designers. What happens, the reason that sometimes outfits get delayed from wherever is because bandwidth gets choked at the production side, because there are a lot of orders coming in. So we work with the designer on the production process and try and ensure that, we're as per timeline given to the client, because
Yeah.
this is something that you just can't miss, right? Your wedding
Yeah.
date's not going to change.
Absolutely. But you guys are working globally. It's not only like you're just dealing within India.
Yes.
So sometimes it gets a little hectic, or do you have a good flow of, having this?
Sometimes it always gets very hectic. It is perpetually hectic.
Okay.
But there's definitely a flow. And what's really nice is that Indian wedding season is very different from US wedding season.
Okay.
So Indian wedding season is typically from September to February
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And US wedding season is during their summer, which is April to September. So this gives us sort of,
Yeah.
we can sort of plan the calendar accordingly. But I think the trickier part is actually with logistics partners, where the timelines come into play, because brides for any special occasion, you have
Yeah.
to keep in mind that not only will the outfit be ready by this time, but it'll also take you 2 weeks to reach, or 1 week to reach, or 3 days to
Yes,
reach, depending on wherever you
absolutely.
are in the world.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I was seeing someone's reel recently, one of the brand owner, and she was actually mentioning like she's a wonderful designer herself, and she's mentioned that if your logistics partners are not good, no matter how nicely you curate the outfits, no matter what service that you want to provide, if they are not working well, so everything gets nil, right? And everything just gives them the bad experience. So she was showing, the comments and that reel, that how people have called her fraud and all those things, and
Oh
she
my
was
goodness.
really feeling bad about it.
Right.
So I think that's very nicely said by you, that it's very important that your logistics partner should be strong enough to, to work on your own ethos, right?
Surely,
and,
yeah.
And it's very important.
As a business, it's very important to get the
Yeah.
operations side right. Not only it's not like the fun stuff as such, but it's super important to get it right, because ultimately, if the outfit doesn't reach the person,
Yeah.
right, then everything's negated.
Absolutely. Tell me one more thing. We were talking about, having Indian designers. How many approximately designers Aza now has?
Across online and offline, we have more than 1,000 labels
Wow,
that
that's
we
a
work
number.
with. In the stores, it's more, it's a sharper curation in terms of, it's a less number of designers.
Sure.
Although each store has their own roster of designers that work for that store. And then, of course, there is, a part of the portfolio that keeps switching up because, it's new, it's trending kind of thing. Online, because, it's unlimited rack space, we offer a very vast range of designs across every price point.
Sure.
In the luxury space.
Okay.
And the idea is that, people sitting in the US may have different tastes from people sitting in Australia who have so
Yeah.
taste can really vary vastly across the globe. And so we do want to help cater to that, which is why
okay.
personalization is really important. What you see on the website caters to you.
Okay. When we talk about multi-designer store, right? Do you think sometimes it gets little difficult to deal with so many designers at once? Because I'm sure, when you promote one, the other feels bad about this. Do you have your favorites among favorites?
No, that's like asking which child is your favorite. There's no favoritism
See,
at
I'm
all.
putting you on the spotlight
A
now.
lot of our decision making is actually very data driven.
Sure.
We look at the stats in terms of what's working, what's not working.
Okay.
And online, at least, our algorithm is such that what is working gets amped up and what is not working, unfortunately, gets deprioritized because the marketing ROI has to make sense.
Absolutely.
So this is built into our logic and our tech from the get-go.
Sure.
That being said, like if we really see potential in a new designer, right? Or, we think that this could really work for this season,
Yeah.
then we try and give it visibility, of course.
Yeah.
Basis, just like genuine potential.
Yeah.
And if it works, then great. And many of our new launches have clicked in that manner.
Yeah.
So
No, that's amazing to know. But tell me something. Are you willing to have more international designers as well under Aza's umbrella?
I am a strong believer that India has a tremendous amount of talent.
Amazing.
And I really think that our labels, there are enough labels in India itself that you don't really need to look outside. However, never say never. I would be,
Yeah.
we never know like how things play out. But as of now, Aza has always like sort of really backed Indian design.
Yeah. But when we talk about that, what takes Aza apart from all the competitors that we see in India? Because there are many multi-designer stores, but how Aza always stays on top?
So we actually did a lot of customer interviews recently where we chatted on the phone with many clients. And one of the things that came out in those conversations was our customer service.
Sure.
In terms of working with the clients on, providing options that suit their sensibility. And then
Okay.
even post-order sales service, that's another big one. I think the relationship is really critical, right? Like if I'm just going to throw things at you and it's not like a very comfortable process, then that doesn't work. So that feeling of warmth is actually really important in the shopping process.
Yeah.
That's one. And the other, of course, is the curation.
Okay.
Year after year, we try and curate styles that we believe. And this is also data driven.
How much involvement do you have in making Aza what it's today?
This is all I do.
Yeah.
I sort of eat, sleep, breathe Aza. It's my first baby. I definitely, yeah,
I just want to
It's
ask
tough
you,
to answer.
yeah, I just want to ask you, like, when it comes to having a new designer on board, I mean, what all things that you see in that designer? I mean, it's definitely the right thing, the way you've said that India has many talent, and we can definitely explore. But I really want to ask you, what's that one thing that you see in the designer, and how do you know that it's perfect fit for Azza? And I'm sure that you will be making, these decisions very often. So really want to ask you, what's your way of scanning through the designers?
I think a unique aesthetic or a design sensibility which makes you stand out season on season, that's really important. So what is the brand language, or the designer's personality has to come in through their collection, and it has to be such that I can identify your garment from across the room season after season, even though you're varying the styles and changing the collection. That's really important. And apart from that, obviously the commercial angle also matters, because we may love a designer, but if it doesn't sell, ultimately, unfortunately, after a couple of seasons, you do have to discontinue that.
Absolutely.
So commercial viability also includes pricing. Pricing is an absolutely critical piece. When a designer is creating a collection, getting the pricing right is something that we strongly advise, because, if you price it too high, then honestly, it doesn't sell.
Yeah.
And if you price it too low, it's not perceived to be luxury enough. So getting that pricing right is critical.
Okay. Why don't you name a few of the designers who are very timeless and classic? I mean, brides like me, if I want to go for a shopping spree, I really want to just pick up those classic pieces and get done with this. So maybe you can make my job easier.
Sure. Anamika Khanna, definitely, which you're wearing. I think she's incredibly talented. She's one of the pioneers of Indian fashion, and you just can't go wrong with her. Rimple and Harpreet Narula, this is another, their pieces are classic, they're timeless. Again, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Jayanti Reddy, I love her style. Her colors are bright, vibrant, joyful, but at the same time done in a very minimal and classy way.
Yeah.
Not in your face. Who else? There's so many.
I've seen a lot of brides wearing Torani last year.
Yes, Torani is gorgeous.
Yeah.
I love his aesthetic as well. It it has a very heritage feel.
Yeah.
And but done in a modern way. Tarun Tahiliani, of course. He just makes you look like a goddess. Like when you put on a Tarun Tahiliani sari gown or draped sari or any of his pieces, even a lehenga, I just feel like a princess.
I think you're definitely forgetting one name for sure.
Okay, who's that?
Ekaya. I mean, they do such amazing, timeless pieces.
Yes.
It's like you just want to blindfold yourself and just pick up the outfit, and it will look gorgeous on you.
I agree. And in fact, this is with the heirloom sari theme, where you want to buy something for your trousseau. I definitely think an Ekaya sari is timeless, and it's a piece that you should pick up for your trousseau.
Definitely. But Devangi, do you think that these days, when we go for shopping in terms of bridal wear, is it reflecting more of culture, or is it reflecting more of self-expressions?
I think the two are one and the same, right?
Sure.
So growing up in the US, I really learned that my cultural identity is part of who I am as an individual. And it's so important and such a critical part of my self-expression, So the two are really one and the same. Just because I'm a modern bride, for example, doesn't mean that I'm not expressing my culture, or that I'm not deeply rooted in culture, right? Like I may be like a deeply rooted in culture person, but I want to interpret that in a very modern way.
Yeah.
So for example, we were talking about Banarasi saris.
Yeah.
Amit Agarwal does very, very interesting gowns with Banarasi saris, right? So that's a modern interpretation. And it just looks fabulous. Anamika Khanna takes brocade and makes, a draped pant set with it. So these are modern interpretations of very traditional styles. And they look absolutely stunning.
Yeah. But do you think that are we, evolving fast from Indian fashion to modern brides?
I think we're evolving at the pace that we need to evolve at. It's a good pace.
Yeah.
I definitely see this. There's a amalgamation of global mindset and our heritage, which is happening because obviously everybody is extremely well traveled. They've seen, the world, and it's all on the internet anyway. Even
Yeah.
if you've not been somewhere, you've seen it on Instagram, you've seen it on Google.
Yeah.
ChatGPT can tell you about it. So,
Yeah.
people it's the global mindset, but values are still deeply, Indian.
Internal as well.
And craftsmanship is being celebrated in a new way. So saris have come back in a really big way. Patola can
Oh,
be
yes.
I love patola,
Yeah.
but it can be done beautifully as a lehenga. It can be done in very cool ways as well. So I see people bringing their mum saris
Yeah.
to designers and saying, is there something that you can do with this?
Yeah.
So Shantanu Goenka makes absolutely stunning pieces where it's like heirloom saris, and he makes them into a piece for the mother of the bride, for the bride even.
Yeah.
And it's done really beautifully. He'll embroider it. So he actually, I think that works very well, because if you have an heirloom piece and
Yeah.
you may not want to wear it the way that it is, you can restyle it.
Absolutely. Talking about restyling, do you think that brides are looking for their bridal wear more like an investment these days?
Yes, definitely. I think that brides today are seeing their bridal outfits as an investment. I would love to pass down some of my key pieces to my daughter, for example. And whether or not she wears it, I would love for her to have them.
Sure.
It's just a really beautiful sentiment. Another thing that brides are really keeping in mind is re-wearability. So,
Absolutely.
even if I don't wear it head to toe the same way, can I wear the blouse again? Can I wear the skirt again? Can I wear the dupatta again? Styled in different ways.
Yeah.
This is something brides do keep in mind, because, you don't want this giant thing just sitting in your cupboard
Yeah.
for the rest of your life and you can't figure out what to do with it.
Absolutely.
This is something to be mindful of.
You just gave me an idea. I think I need to use my Sabyasachi dupattas.
You can easily
Yeah.
do it. I actually make videos about this, about how to break apart the components and rewear
Yeah.
them in different ways.
I think I should do that.
Yeah.
But tell me something, luxury and sustainability, they often clash, So
I don't think they do, actually. So fast fashion clashes heavily with sustainability. But luxury, because you're not buying a ton of luxury pieces, you're investing in a few key things which are very meaningful to you, where you perceive a lot of value from that piece. And it's something that, because you've spent a fair amount of money on, you will rewear, you want to pass
Yeah.
it down through generations.
Sure.
Whether it's a piece of clothing or a sari
Yeah.
or a bag, it's a key piece in your closet which is going to last through the years. It's
Yeah.
not something you're throwing away after a year kind of thing. So I do think that luxury is much more sustainable than, other parts of fashion.
Yeah.
And even on the sustainability note, I have recently launched Araya by Azza,
Of course.
which is a sustainable jewelry. It's lab-grown diamond jewelry. It's named after my daughter, Araya.
How nice is that?
Yeah, so Araya means beautiful and divine. And, the idea is that we want to create a better tomorrow for our children. And the same kind of light that she brings into my life, I would love to give that light to the world, back to the world. And so the idea is we want to create a sustainable future. And luxury is sustainable. Luxury can definitely be sustainable.
Okay.
Like the two can be intertwined. And when somebody is giving you a piece of jewelry to express their love,
Yeah.
it should come with the guarantee that I know exactly where this
Gonna
is
go,
sourced
yeah.
from, and that it hasn't harmed anyone in the process.
Yeah.
And value also matters,
Absolutely.
like why do you want to spend 10x? Like, save the money, invest it, like make
Yeah.
more, give it to your children.
But having Urfi to represent your brand, right? It was a very bold move. So how it all, set in your mind, and how did you actually think of this idea of having her representing your brand, not any of the bride, not any of the other models, but Urfi?
So we do a cover story for Azza every month.
Sure.
And the idea is to create, to choose women who have a truly authentic voice, who are
Absolutely.
self-made, and who have something to share with the world, right? And whether or not you like Urfi, you can't deny that she is authentic to herself.
Yeah.
She is true to herself, and she is honest and open about it. And
Yeah.
I really respect that. Like, that's awesome. One may not resonate with her
Yeah.
style, in the sense that maybe you won't wear the same garments that she wears.
Absolutely.
But to be able to pull that off with so much audacity and so
Yeah.
much confidence and so much strength
Yeah.
is something which is awesome, right?
Absolutely.
And even with Araya by Azza, want the brand to be worn by authentic women.
Absolutely.
So all our campaigns have been across women in every different industry, right? Like it could be an interior designer, it could be a nutritionist, it could be a mother, it could be anything, right? A homemaker. But the idea is that I choose to celebrate myself for who
Yeah.
I am, and I'm not afraid to speak my truth.
Yeah.
These are all like my personal life lessons
Love
coming
that.
through
Yeah.
the brand.
Yeah.
And just be authentically you. Let's celebrate you for who you are. So, I think Urfi does that beautifully.
Absolutely. I've recently shot with Urfi. We were shooting for Rimple and Harpreet, one of the campaign for Padmavat.
Right.
I mean, she was, because we have always seen her in a different avatar
Yeah.
altogether. And suddenly you're seeing her as a regal bride.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful to, see her and how confidently she was pulling that entire look. So, sometimes we just have certain notions. We've been talking a lot about notions on the podcast. And I think it's time that we cut off all the notions and think beyond that.
Yes.
For sure. But tell me, how important is collaborations for any brand?
I think collaborating with the right people is absolutely critical.
Okay.
Collaborations just to collaborate, it doesn't actually generate results because people sort of see through it. So as a strategy, a lot of brands are like, oh, I have to collaborate with influencers or I have to get a celebrity.
Yeah.
So therefore, let's just get whoever fits in the budget. That doesn't work. What is your brand about? Who is it really speaking to? And who is somebody who resonates with that and who will be able to identify, like who your target audience will be able to identify with. Now, whether that person has 2,000 followers or 200,000 followers. It doesn't matter. The point is that that person should be the correct representation for your brand. So rather than just trying to tick off the box, I think it's important to be very mindful of, the voice which is coming through and pick the right person.
Yeah. Now we're on the segment which I really, really love. So ideally, I should be calling it rapid fire.
Okay.
But I think you will have a lot to give it to our audience. So we'll call it one-liner.
Okay.
Right. So we start from here. If you have to give one word for each designer, I start with Sabyasachi.
Timeless and classic.
Amazing. Tarun Tahiliani.
Ethereal and fashionable.
I second that. What about Manish Malhotra?
Me? I've been obsessed with Manish Malhotra ever since I was a kid, and I envisioned being a Manish Malhotra bride literally my whole life. And yeah, that's what I was.
I love that. Sari or lehenga for a beach wedding?
For a beach wedding, I think a pre-draped sari can look very pretty in a pastel tone. And also a cape set looks really nice.
Oh, I think yes. Minimalist bride or maximalist bride? What's more fun to style?
Both. I think both are really fun to style.
We need some specific answers.
I mean, maximal.
Your hamper is waiting.
Maximal.
One bridal trend you want to see come back?
I think saris being worn on the main day is a beautiful trend.
I'm sure. And one bridal trend you want to go?
There's this new concept of people getting international brands to make Indian silhouettes, whether it's a lehenga or a sari. I just feel that we have so much talent in India.
Yeah.
Do you really need Italian designers to be coached to learn how to make a sari? Like even if it is beautiful, it's such a special occasion. Let's celebrate our culture.
Yeah.
And I'm just patriotic in that way. I feel like let's choose Indian designers for making Indian silhouettes at least, right? Like if you're doing a gown from an international designer, go right ahead. But
Definitely.
you don't need to train this Italian fellow to make a sari.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's that one piece you think that a bride should definitely own?
So whichever silhouette the bride is most fond of wearing, she should buy one classic piece that she can rewear through the years of that silhouette. So, I mean, earlier it used to be the sari, of course, like a Banarasi sari or a Patola sari or whatever that investment piece would be. But it could also be a kurta. It could be a classic white anarkali that, you can wear through the years and style in very interesting ways. It could be a cape set if that's what whatever that silhouette is that you resonate with most, I would say invest in one of that, which is really top notch.
I love that. Where FM or Shania?
Both.
Yay! Oh my God. I can't believe that the conversation was so amazing. I was totally compelled with the entire thing that you were telling me. I was learning, I was making notes in my head.
It was really enjoyable. I loved being here. Thank you so much. And the time really flew. I don't even know where it went.
But thank you so much once again. And I really, really wish Azza and Araya for sure loads of luck on their way, because I feel you guys are doing a great job, especially when you deal with something which is very, very sacred. I mean, imagine you're dealing with brides and grooms every day, and it's a beautiful feeling that you're a part of their best moments, best days. So thank you. And
thank you so much.
I hope to see you very, very soon. But
surely.
Before that, we have a little hamper for you.
Oh, I won the rapid fire. I like it.
You definitely did.
Okay. I mean, there was no competition. So
thank you so much. And this is little something for you. And I hope that you binge on it.
Thank you so much.
It's like
That's so sweet.
that coffee with current sort of a...
I won the rapid fire with no competition.
Definitely.
I love it.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a backup.
Hi, I'm Devangi Parekh. I'm the managing director at Azza Fashions, and I had a great time being here with Wed FM today. I really value what Wed FM is doing. It's the first wedding-related podcast in India, and I love the fact that it introduces different players in the wedding industry through storytelling, and there's so many great tips and learnings from each of the podcasts. So I really value what Wed FM is doing.